in big corporations, working with a lot of people from different backgrounds and different age groups. I've managed organizations of 2,000 plus people and so on. But I'm also nowadays teaching university students, and I see firsthand how they are actually using AI in their day-to-day work. So without further ado, I'll start with a question. And the question is AI making students at all levels actually, is AI making students stop thinking? And that's something which, of course, it's probably too early to have an answer to, because I don't think we are too far off or far enough off in the realm of AI in education to have a definitive answer. And I also think to a certain extent that it's not really the right question, because the view from inside the classroom, the view I have, is that learning didn't really change. Oh, thank you, Mokril. I see you. You can actually annotate my screen. So that's cool. So the view is that learning didn't really change, and it's difficult actually to change. But we as educators, teachers, professors will have to. And the reason I'm saying this is because the fact that we can generate faster output and, if you want, faster thinking, does not equal actually that we can generate faster understanding. And we know that for learning, we definitely need understanding. And understanding is sometimes a slow, effortful process. And we actually need to make sure that this struggle stays with us, with the students, because otherwise, without this learning curve, we are not going to be able to actually get much learning. We are going to get a lot of content generated, but I don't really think we are going to get much understanding. Of course, when it comes to learning or any activity which we do as humans, motivation plays a big role, right? So why we do what we do is as important as the activity itself, and AI has no bearing here, in my opinion. Of course, if you are a curious learner, somebody which sees a purpose in learning, then AI can be a rocket for you, or rocket fuel, because it gives more reach, it gives access to things which we didn't have before. So, for example, just because we are such an international group here, it's easy for me to access learning or research in pretty much any language in the world, even if I'm not speaking that language, because translations have been much improved, or improved greatly by AI. On the other hand, if learning is just a tick in the box or something which we do for a degree or a diploma, yes, we can have a shortcut with AI, but that's not really something which gives us much for the long run. So what I did in my course with my students, by the way, I was teaching organizational behavior, and a lot of questions at some point were around how is the exam going to be, what we need to learn, what we need to study, and so on. And that's something which I try to steer away as a conversation, because I said we are not here to memorize things, and we are not here to just do tick in the box type of projects. We need to understand enough in such a way that theory can actually help us in the day-to-day work. And we all know from our activities that when we go to a meeting, when we go into a organizational meeting, be it private or public, we do not go there citing theories or famous names or whatever. The ideal thing is to go to that particular meeting with a solid contribution, with something valuable. So that's actually the main reason I was teaching something around understanding theory, but do not memorize, because that's not the future. Certain countries, and it's not the only example, but I think South Korea was one of the early adopters of AI in education and AI at all levels, right? So they said even from primary school up to high school and of course then university studies, we need to make sure that people have a certain understanding of AI, but with a strong focus on proper use, fairness, and obviously ethical use. And that's something which I really like. And it's not the only framework. You'll see referenced in my presentation some others, but this is really something that proves that it's doable, right? So AI doesn't become our enemy; it's actually an ally in the teaching process. Again, I love the fact that this conference is gathering people from so many parts of the world, because I saw AI. So when ChatGPT, for example, went mainstream, I felt it's like a great tool which can be accessed from anywhere in the world, but it can also become, same as with the internet and other great technologies, a great dividers or a digital divider. So we need to make sure that we choose properly, and each country, community, region, if you will, has a certain strategy around it. And it's not so simple because, of course, everything is so new for us. I mentioned that it's been done before. So at a high level, there are a couple of great frameworks for AI in education. One is from OECD, another one is from UNESCO. Countries which have models, I mentioned South Korea, Singapore, Estonia. And our job is basically to adapt and do not reinvent the wheel, because doesn't make sense to reinvent the wheel. I use this cover. You notice that I like using covers from magazines, but this one is about social media, but it can work as well for artificial intelligence. So one strategy, which I don't think will work, is trying to ban artificial intelligence in education. Unfortunately, there are a couple of initiatives also in Romania, but in other countries as well, in which AI is kind of forbidden in education. And I think, coming back to the previous discussion, that can generate actually a digital divide or a digital gap between countries. So hopefully that's not going to happen. But of course, we cannot leave it up to individuals or individual schools, organizations to adopt it. I think we need a strategy. I called it a national strategy just because, for example, Romania adopted at some point in 2024 a national AI strategy. And I think that that's a great step, because it kind of gives a similar platform to all schools or organizations in the country. Of course, we all know from our experience that the strategy that is not put into practice, is not operational, is just a wish, right? Remains something as a wishful thinking. So we need to make sure that we adopt a strategy and it's something which will be, put into practice. I'll stop here, taking some key points. This is me with my two kids. I'm also interested as a parent, besides being a teacher. I'm interested as a parent in how AI will be embedded into the education. The key points for me are, we need to realize that faster output or faster thinking does not equal faster understanding, and that's critical. On the other hand, we need to adopt tools, because modern tools like AI obviously help students, but as long as we can keep them motivated for the right reasons, that curious learner I was mentioning. So what changes basically are the tools or the technologies which can enable us, but how we learn and how we understand, in my opinion, didn't change, and that will always be deeply human. So with this thought in mind, and with the last cover for today, I hope we will not stop or we will stop actually holding us back, and actually look at the future with an open mind. Thank you. If you have any questions, or I'm not sure what's the next step, but I'm here for you guys.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bogdan. Bogdan, sorry, pronunciation is not right. Thank you very much for such an educative session about AI and its use. I wouldn't know if anyone has a question now. Please, you can drop your questions throughout the chat.
If not, probably it will be enough time to discuss in the breakout rooms.
Yes. All right, I can see there is no question. So right about now, we'll be going into the breakout session.
Please, I have my hand up.
Okay. Oluseun Adeyemi, please, you can go on with your question.
Okay, thank you, Segun. Thanks so much, Mr. Bogdan. Or is he a doctor or a professor? I would like to know that.
Also doctor, because I have a PhD in international business, yeah.
Okay. I love the discourse about AI and the role in education, especially in the classroom. And between you and I want to tell you that there is this big gap between the teacher, lecturers, and the student. So my question is, how can we prepare teachers, knowledge makers, those that impart knowledge on students, younger ones? How can we prepare them for AI? Probably in the area of continuous professional development, digital literacy, AI literacy, and mentoring. Because if we don't get that right, the gap between AI usage as far as education is concerned will still be there. So I would know if you have some way around this, please.
Yeah. And thank you for the first of all for the remarks and for the question, because they are really insightful. I can only say, and that's why I mentioned the strategy, right? Because yes, we can say we want to adopt AI in education, but we need to do it through teachers, through educators. And with a strategy, we need to make sure that we actually involve the teachers in coming up with a curricula, with everything which is needed, and also listen what they feel they need, right? Because I've seen two two positionings when it comes to AI in the classroom. One is like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to ban it in homeworks, in everything. And that's bad in my opinion, but it mainly comes from not understanding what's going on and how AI can actually empower learning. And the other one is also very permissive without understanding the other side of it, that over-reliance on AI can also become a weakness. So yeah, in my opinion, a national strategy, and when I say national, we don't need to consider only like a country, right? Can be a group of countries like we are in European Union and so on. But the strategy which focuses on making sure that teachers, educators are ready is the first step. And then adoption will become easier. One thing which is missing, and I've seen many organizations also as an external consultant, one thing which is missing is a way to share best practices, because all of us to a certain point have discovered different uses, different way of, or different benefits of AI, but there is no good platform to share all these learnings, right? So that's something which I don't have a good answer, but I wish somebody would come with a good answer on how we can share what we learned at an individual level. Hope it makes sense.
It's okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. I would like to know if there is any other question. Okay.
Yes, sir. I just want to ask, based on the response from the speaker, so how do you think we can create a good platform to bridge this gap? Please, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had an answer to this one. I mean, in a specific organization, for example, if it's just a company or a public sector organization, I feel it's easier because we already have internal collaboration tools. So normally companies are creating communities of practice using tools like, I don't know, Teams, Slack, whatever, in order for everyone to be able to access like a Wikipedia of AI usage. But if I'm thinking of a bigger from a bigger picture, like, all the teachers in Romania, all the teachers in a certain country, I don't really have an answer to that one. And that's something which we need to keep looking for.
Okay, Dr. Horsas, are you good with the question, with the answer?
Well, not too satisfied, but I understand. It's okay. Okay.
All right. So
I mean,
right now,
maybe today in the discussions, maybe we'll come up with some suggestions as well, right?
Yeah, that's good. Okay.
All right. So now we'll be going for the breakout session. Is Dr. Natasha Chelese from Zambia on the call?
Yes, I am available.
All right, please, over to you now as we move to the breakout session.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we can begin, right? Are you able to hear me?
Loud and clear.
Yes, we can.
Great, great. So with me in the breakout room 1, I have kindly just raise your hand to notify me that you are available. And pardon me if I mispronounce your name, but I'll do my very best to pronounce it right. So we have Yi Cheng Ching, youth representative from Taiwan. We have Ajiboye Adenike Abosede, who is founder and lead coach of the social media tycoon Nigeria. We have Blessings Michael, who is founder of Tales and Treasures Literacy Initiatives from Nigeria. We have Carlos Daniel Caballero Bargan, youth representative from Colombia. And lastly, we have Hakeem Ayodeji Nafiu, CEO and founder of Olan Global Academy from the USA. Okay, so I'm going to read out the question, and any panelist is allowed to just give us their insight on the question under 3 minutes. The first question being, what does a genuinely future-ready education system look like, and how far are most national education systems from being able to deliver it equitably to every child, regardless of geographical or economic background? Any of the panelists available?
Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Good day, everyone. My name is Hakeem Nafiu. I am the founder of Olan Global Academy. Thank you, moderator, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. So if I get the question correctly, it says, what does a genuinely future-ready education systems look like? And how far are most national education systems for being able to deliver it equitably to every child, regardless of geographical or economic background? Did I get the question correctly?
Yes, yes.
Great. Well, what I would say is that that is a very good, important question. To me, a genuinely future-ready education system is not defined how much education, or let me say how much technology knowledge you have. It is defined by how well it prepares every learner. Because developing not only means that you are bringing knowledge in, it means that you are ready to bring in future. You're ready to develop your mindset. You're ready to look at the holistic of how to impact knowledge. So it's just unfortunately that many education systems are still far from achieving that goal. We continue to see significant disparities based on geographical location, income, disability, and access. And access to me is not just about access to education, access to equality. This
Apologies
question
for
actually,
cutting in. We have 1 minute left.
okay. This question actually reminded me of a radio program that I anchor, and we talk about equality in education. So what I would say in firmly is that a future-ready education system is one where opportunity is not determined by a child's postcode or economic background, but by our collective commitment to equity, quality, and human-centered leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much
All right.
for that powerful insight.
Dr.
The next panel.
Dr. Natasha, please hold on a bit. Before we go on with
Yes.
the breakout session, we have 2 breakout rooms. The other one is supposed to run on simultaneously. Is Ngambo Musenge on the call? Ngambo Musenge. All right. Okay. In that case, then we'll move on to the next breakout room. Please, let's all join the breakout room one.
Pardon?
I'll be on the other call on the
I
other
have a
breakout.
question.
Yes.
So which breakout rooms? So how many breakout rooms do we have?
Just 2.
Okay, all right.
But we have 4 here. Or am I seeing? We have 4 listed.
Yes, we have 4 listed. I can see 4 too.
Updated.
Okay, two are gone now. So we have 1 and 2.
Yes.
So we can join the 2 now.
Yes. The speakers for the panelists for breakout session 1 should join their breakout room, and the panelists for 2 should please join their room too.
All right, so I want to find out what breakout room am I a panelist for since the list was updated, because I was supposed to be a panelist for the main breakout room.
All right, now the main breakout room will be on breakout room 2, and the breakout room 1 remains the breakout room 1. Do you get that?
Sorry, can you clarify this? This doesn't sound a bit. So the updated calendar, forgive me, good afternoon, everyone. Olufumi here, one of the speakers. So the updated schedule that was sent has main room, which is Ngambo, I hope I'm correct, and then has breakout room 1, which is Natasha. Are you saying that that has been changed?
Okay, let's do it this way. Breakout room 1, join breakout room 1 on the call, and the other main room should remain here. That Ngambo should remain on the main room while Natasha joins breakout room 1. Do we all get that?
All right. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes. Ngambo be on the main room while Natasha joins breakout room 1. Just as it is on the speakers program.
All right, I'm already in the main room. Ngambo.
All right.
And I think I'm already in the main room, right?
Right. Natasha on breakout room 1.
So which breakout room am I to go to?
Okay, the moderator should please read out the names of the panelists for each breakout room.
Okay, so in the main room, I have Olufemi Olumsin, and then Philip Hazeli, Bridget Abayomi, Pacifico Nazero, and then Carol Warren. That's for the main room.
Right.
Okay, so I can go ahead?
Yes, please.
So we can join.
Thank you.
We can join room 2 now, right?
Okay.
Oh, you're still on the main room.
I should stay on the main room, right?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Welcome. My name is Gambo, and I'll be your moderator for the main room. Okay. So, as I think I can go through the names again, or we can just go right into the presentations. Okay. So I think because of time, we can just start with the presentations. So I will start. Is it Mrs. or Miss Olufemi Olusen? Is she in the meeting?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, Ma, please, is your presentation ready?
I'm not a speaker, I'm a panelist, so you're the one supposed to take the questions. That's what we're briefed.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay. All right, so I'll start with the first question. Okay. So the first question is, what does a general literary education system look like, and how far are most national education systems from being able to deliver it equitably to every child, regardless of geography or economic background?
Thank you for that. But I just thought to add, I think the previous speaker was already answering that question. I think that was Speaker Hakeem. Perhaps he just wants to conclude on that. Speaker Hakeem, please confirm. That was the question you were answering,
Okay.
right?
Yes, that was the question.
Yes.
And
So
I was even
he can just
thinking,
conclude. Yeah.
yeah, I was even thinking probably presentation will come first before questions, but I think everything is changed.
I think you can go ahead with the presentation. Okay, you can finish answering. You can
Okay. You said I should start the presentation. I think the network is cutting in and out.
Is that okay? I will answer the question. Go ahead with the presentation if that's okay.
Okay, yes.
All right, thank you.
Good. 1 minute. Can you see my screen? I'm trying to share my screen.
Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening, distinguished leaders, innovators, educators, and change makers joining us from around the world. My name is Hakeem Nafiu, and I want to say that it's a true honor to be part of the Global Leadership Summit 2026. And I want to sincerely thank the organizers for creating a platform that brings together people from different countries who share one common purpose, creating meaningful impact. If you look at the slide, it says Education Reimagined. When people hear about education, or let me say reimagine education, what comes to their mind is technology. But this is more than technology. My story is one of the things that actually push me forward when I think about life generally. I am a doctoral candidate in education administration at Carolina University, and I found Holland Global Academy. You know, looking back, I never imagined that years later, I would realize that those works were teaching me one of the greatest lessons of leadership and education. I wasn't thinking about that. And this is one of the reasons why I formed Holland Global Education. Today, I would like to invite you to think differently, because when we hear the phrase education reimagined, our mind often jumps immediately to artificial intelligence, digital tools, and technology. Those things certainly matter. However, I believe reimagining education begins somewhere much deeper. It actually begins with one simple question: what kind of future are we preparing for? And perhaps, even if more importantly, who gets left behind if we fail to answer that question? That brings me to the foundation of today's conversation, because we will discuss about intelligence, artificial intelligence, digital transformation, or the future of learning. With all that, we first need to understand why education itself must evolve. Looking at this slide, before we dive in, let me quickly show you the journey we are going to take over to the next few minutes. I promise you, this is not just another presentation about education. This is going to be conversational about the future. Together, we'll begin by looking honestly at the whole wild world we live in today. A world that is changing faster than any generation before us has experienced this. Then we examine the education gap, not simply the gap between rich and poor nations, but the widening gap between what our schools teach and what today's world actually demands. And from there, we will explore the future of skills. Because in the age of artificial intelligence, knowledge alone is no longer enough. The question is, what abilities will make people valuable in a world where machines can increasingly perform routine tasks? That naturally leads us to AI and education. So the questions are, should we fear it? Should we embrace it? Or should we learn how to lead with it responsibly? And after that, we will discuss something that matters deeply to me, like I said earlier on, access. Because innovation only matters when everyone has the opportunity to benefit from it. After that, I will share what I believe educators, policymakers, government, universities, and young leaders must be doing today if we truly want to prepare the next generation. And above all, I will connect everything back to what inspired the whole discussion. Because after years of research, one truth has become impossible for me to ignore. We cannot transform education without first transforming the people who make education possible. Finally, I want to leave you with a challenge, not a conclusion, because I believe leadership begins the moment a conversation ends. So let's begin with a simple conversation. The world has changed, but the question is, has education changed with it? We will find out. Yes. When I was growing up, I have a simple advice then, and I believe that this happens to everybody. Study hard, get good grades, earn a degree, find a job, get married, and for decades, that formula worked. However, today, that world no longer exists. Today, we are living through what I believe is the most disruptive era in human history. Please, not because change is happening. Change has always happened. Rather, because the speed of change has become unprecedented. That is, artificial intelligence is reshaping entire industry. No doubt about that. Jobs that existed 5 years ago are disappearing. And you will notice that new careers are emerging almost overnight. And consequently, what happens to education? Education system itself are struggling to keep pace. Schools are designed to prepare students for tomorrow. That is what we know. But unfortunately, tomorrow is arriving much faster than schools can adapt. And at the same time, something else is happening. The skills we acquire are becoming obsolete, if you don't know that, much more quickly than before. Researchers often describe this as the shaking half of life. In other words, what a student matters today may not longer be enough just a few years from now. So let's think about that for a moment. We are asking young people to prepare for careers that may not exist yet. Meanwhile, the challenges we face, such as the climate change, artificial intelligence, migration, public health, cybersecurity, are no longer local problems. They are now global. There's no conference, there's no meeting you want to attend to. What you will hear is there is global impact, there's global problem. And global problems require collaboration across borders, disciplines, and generation. This means the future will not simply reward those who know the most. That's one of the things. It will reward those who learn continuously, adapt quickly, collaborate effectively, and lead ethically. That reality forces us to ask an uncomfortable question. If the world has changed this dramatically, the question is, has education changed enough to prepare the next generation? That is where our conversation takes us to. Next.
So kind of ask me if you can just wrap up so that we can just begin with the questions due to
Okay.
time.
Okay. So what I'm trying to say, or let me say what this whole section is trying to talk about, is you look at it in a different dimension. If AI is changing, are they also equipping education? Are they also facilitating the system? Because there is a point in you, or let me say there is a point in whereby you have artificial intelligence grooming on in education. Has it come to stay? Has it, yes, of course, the answer is AI has come to stay. But the question, I know some people still find it difficult to accept, but AI has come to stay. But the question that matters most is, are we ready to adapt ourselves to the AI era? If we are ready, how well are you trained to adapt, to adjust, and to make sure you do not abuse this AI platform in education? For instance, at Holland Global Academy, what I did was to incorporate AI into the learning system, because Holland Global Academy is actually an educational platform where teacher goes to source for materials on lesson plan, lesson notes, curriculum development, behavior strategists. That is all what it encompasses. And by the time you put the prompt there, it doesn't solve it for you. It will ask you questions. It will suggest. It will ask you, have you done this? Have you done that? So that is one of the things that I actually look into that make me believe that if we have this in place, we ourselves as human that is in world of education today, we must learn to train the AI. We must learn to make sure like the AI was never or is not going to be abused. So if you look at this slide, that's what I was trying to tell you. The lesson plan generator, lesson notes generator, classroom strategy recommender, policy analysis assistant, teaching method advisor, and teaching compasses. All these are AI that was built in Holland Global Academy, but it's never going to solve it for you. If you go to the lesson plan generator, for instance, what it's going to do is you are going to fill all the information and ask you questions before you finally generate, and there is no school involved. So you still have to read before you interpret. But majority of us these days, we just go into it, type it in, print, and I'm an admission counselor. Most of the times when students send SOP to us, I still see the notes of AI at the back by saying if you want me to write it in another tone, and I'll just laugh. That yes. So yes, AI has come to stay. And I made mention of 3 commitments for the intelligence age. 1, try to fund the teacher, not just the tool. Design for real classroom, build for the room that exists, not the brochure, and make sure you reshape, do not import. Then the third part is reach the back of the room first. Majority, by the time we have an innovation coming in, we never look at who actually needs this most, but we look at who is around us, who can benefit around us. And with all this experience, I was able to publish a book, which I talk about the crisis in teacher and its global strategy that we can use to reclaim the classroom. I talk about restoring integrity, that is treating teaching as the skilled profession. Some people look at teacher as, oh, I'm just there for a while. I'm just there for a period till I get a better opportunity. So are you telling me, or are you saying that teaching is not a good profession? So integrity needs to come in. We need to start seeing ourselves as, yes, a pilot, because that same pilot, that medical doctor was taught by a teacher. Then 2, I talk about rebuilding the system, fixing structures around the teacher, not blaming them, because we know that the system is actually failing. But what are we doing in the life of education as a whole, as an individual? Then the thirdly is empowering the teaching. That is when those tools comes in. You cannot have a tool when you are not empowering the teacher. So everything was stated here in this book. To round it up, you see, I know that this section is actually short, but I'm sure that I've been able to give you the presentation in such a way that we've talked about the access, we've talked about the future of skills, we've talked about educational leadership. However, beneath everyone, those conversations stands one person, which is the teacher. Technology will continue to evolve. Artificial intelligence will become even more powerful. Jobs will continue to change. The world will continue to surprise us. Nevertheless, one thing must remain constant. Every child deserves a teacher who is prepared, supported, respected, and empowered to help them succeed. That is why our responsibility is bigger than introducing new technology into classroom. Our responsibility is to build education system where teachers can flourish, because when teachers flourish, students flourish. When students flourish, community flourish. And when community flourish, the nation's what will prosper. So as leaders, as policymakers, educators, innovators, and partners from around the world, we need each other. Each and every one of us has a role to play. And by the time we look at it in holistically, by funding the teacher, design for the real classroom, reach back of the room first, not from the main room, but from the back, because those are the people that actually needs it, not those in the front. It's not like those in the front doesn't need it, but when you set up a motion, try to look at who actually. So if we continue ourselves to those 3 discussions, then access will no longer be a slogan. It will become a reality. Thank you so much for this wonderful. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. I can see we have a question in the audience. I can see a question from Salah. All right, please, you can go ahead and ask your question. Salah, you can go ahead and ask your question. Okay, it looks like he's having a challenge with his network. We can't hear him. All right. Okay, so we'll go right into the questions because of time. We only remain with like 20 minutes. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you. There will be a Q&A. All right, thank you so much. All right, thank you so much, Mr. Akeem. I will on next panelist. Thank you so much. All right. Madam Olufemi, are you ready to present?
Hi again. Trust you're doing great. Like I said earlier, the briefing we got was that panelists are not doing presentations, that were to ask questions. So you can go ahead and ask your questions and I will answer.
Okay. All right. So the first question I'm just going to ask is, what skills beyond technical competence does the next generation need to navigate an increasingly complex, automated and intercounted world, and how do we build education systems that prioritize them?
So thank you for that question, and good day, everyone, wherever you're joining us from. I am Olufemi Olaoshe, founder and chief strategy officer at My Lips Initiative, a youth-focused organization that is really with a core goal to close the skills gap, which seems to be growing every day for young people across Africa. And to answer that question, I think, you know, in the world we live in today, I know some people would argue and say, oh, artificial intelligence is not going to replace people, but it's going to replace people. But those who know how to use AI are the ones that will replace others. But when we look at what has been happening so far, I would say that there's already a very huge problem, right, staring right at us. Because now we're seeing people who are outsourcing their thinking. And if we have people continue to outsource their thinking, what that happens is the age of innovation may just be well as good as done, right? So if we're to talk about skills that are beyond technical competences, I would say the first thing is critical thinking, right? I think I heard the first speaker say something. He said, we need to teach, he said, if those that know how to use, like if you're looking for information and you know how to use AI, it accelerates, you know, your work. But if you're just using it just to maybe pass an exam or go to school or something, I mean, that's where the challenge comes. So critical thinking is one skill that we need to teach people, how to analyze information, how to assess information, and how to process information to apply it. So it's not just a case of you go to AI, you ask AI the questions and AI just gives it back to you and you just think, oh, okay, this is it. There are people today that they don't believe that AI can be wrong. They think despite the warnings the platforms give to say, oh, AI can be wrong, there are people who just insist that whatever AI gives to them is what it is. So critical thinking is very, very key. Another, I would say, is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence would apply in the context of, you know, the different demographics. You know, some of us who are, we're privileged to be on this call. We are talking, we are using Zoom. I work in the development space and I've worked in that space for over 10 years. I have been to communities that if I didn't personally visit, I would have said such communities do not exist. Now we are saying that, oh, AI has come to stay, and if you can't use AI, you'll be left behind. But what about such communities? And when we get into conversations with people who may not be privileged as us to have certain access to certain things, would we be able to, you know, be patient enough with them to understand that it's not really by choice, but, you know, it's just sometimes it's the broken systems that cause us things. Then finally, I would say maybe ethical reasoning, because now we're talking about AI, and if you see what's going on, you know, things are going out, we see videos. Now you can't watch a video. Before you could say, oh, if it's a picture, it was altered. But now even videos, you can't watch a video and just assume that because you saw it in a video on the news platform, because we've actually seen news platforms make the mistake of taking AI generated images and videos. You can't even verify. So ethical thinking is something that's also very, or rather ethical reason, something that's also very important in this generation. Beyond knowing how to use AI, how can we use AI in the right way? These are questions we need to start asking. And how can we also use AI to solve real problems? It's not just about generating a presentation or using it to do one lovely video. How can we use AI for good to solve problems? We're talking about health, we're talking about education. How can we use these tools to solve problems? And how can we ensure that the most vulnerable populations are not sidelined in this race for AI? And how can we ensure that they are also not victimized? Because that's also a key risk with AI. So for me, I think these are three critical skills: critical thinking, ethical reasoning, and also, like I said, just the ability to, that emotional intelligence to understand that there are different demographics, and it's very important that we are able to manage all such individuals. So I'll stop here to give the other panelists an opportunity to speak. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm just going to ask you the last question, and then we can go ahead to our next panelist. Thank you so much. So my next question is, how do we address the reality that the communities most in need of reimagined education are often the least recognized to implement it? And what responsibility do our wealthier nations and institutions bear in closing that gap?
Is that question for me?
Yes.
Should I respond?
Sorry, Mgamba.
Yes, please. Is that Miss Bridget?
I'm sorry, I don't. Am I supposed to respond, or the previous speaker should speak to this?
No, this next question was for the previous speaker.
All right. So after the speaker, that's when you'd ask me my questions, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, if you were breaking a bit, so I missed part of the questions. If you could take it again in a few seconds.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Currently, okay, thank you. So my question was, how do we address the reality that the communities most in need of reimagined education are often the least resourced to implement it? And what responsibility do wealthier nations and institutions bear in closing that gap?
So I think that sort of ties in with what I said earlier about how, despite the fact that some of us have this access, there are still communities. I mean, we talk about those who are internally displaced, there are those currently living in crisis regions who have not been able to access, education systems, talk less of even having access to AI trainings and all of that. So I think one way we could talk about that is prioritizing inclusive funding, right? So, I mean, like you said, there are wealthier nations, like quite a number of these AI platforms are actually from organizations, or rather from countries that are supposedly wealthier. So prioritizing funding and, like I said, inclusive funding, not just any kind of funding, like that becomes a responsibility for even organizations, NGOs. You want to organize a program. What are the priority areas? Who are the people assessing such things? Do you understand? I think another way would be to also promote local solutions, right? Because another thing with AI is there is, especially, and I'm going to speak specifically to Africa now, because that's where I do my work. There's that tendency for people to generalize the solutions, right? So, and that's why sometimes when you use AI, if you observe the nuances, there are certain kinds of stereotypes that you have to start correcting, right? Because it's not necessarily based on local African context. And these are things we need to start addressing before AI, I don't want to say goes way out of control. So we need to start promoting local solutions, like even the educational reforms, they need to be contextualized, not just general, broad, like I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria has 36+ states with the FCT. What may work in one region of Nigeria for its education system may not work in another region for its education system, because the differences are so much. So that's why we need to promote such local solutions. Another thing I would say is maybe building global partnerships, right? Collaborations between, because you see, I'm of the opinion that the government cannot do it alone. I know we say it all the time, but really the government cannot do it alone. And that's why we have development partners like ours. But now, with the rise of AI, we need partnerships with even technology organizations. We need to start thinking of how to build partnerships that reach the most vulnerable populations and not just think of the brother, you know, like I said, the brother demography that may have some access to internet. Because I always tell people, if you want to organize an artificial intelligence training or whatever kind of training that has to do with technology, one of the questions I like to ask is the people that you're teaching to. So you go to a community, you want to teach them. The next question you should ask is, do they have the internet to access the training after you are done teaching them? Beyond that, do they have the data? What is the cost of the data? You understand? The differences, I mean, I've had the opportunity to be in the US for some for a couple of, and one core difference I realized was that you get to have access to internet anywhere. You go into the university, there's internet. You go to a restaurant, there's internet. But coming back to my country, there's nothing like that. There's no free internet. You have to pay for your internet by yourself. So if you're teaching someone in a certain kind of a community how to, you know, use AI, use technology, but they don't have the internet, they don't have the capacity to buy the data plans, they don't have the devices. That's like pouring water into a basket. And this is why such global partnerships are very key to really connect the dots and bring in the most, you know, marginalized and underserved communities into this AI journey. I'm just going to stop here so that other speakers can speak. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Ramy. All right, Madam Bridget, you can, yeah, I'm going to ask the next question. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you so much. So my question for you is, what does long life learning like in practice for adults and other generations who were educated in systems that did not prepare them for the world they now inhabit? And how do we make continuous learning accessible and dignified for everyone?
All right, thank you for your question. So, hi everyone, my name is Bridget Abayomi, and I'm the founder of Career Advancement Series. So making education a lifelong process is like, I would recall the words of a wise man that said, the day an individual stops learning, that's the day the person starts to die, right? And this means that when we begin to see learning as a lifelong thing, not a one-off, right? And this is to say that you as an individual, you evaluate yourself to know that, okay, maybe when I was trained, I wasn't trained with digital tools, like Mr. Hakim mentioned, right? Oh, you know that, oh, I wasn't trained with digital tools. Now, how do I access my digital learning? How do I outsource my learnings? And to make it a lifelong practice is you intentionally deciding to ride along the wave. You know, when there's a wave, you would not say that, oh, because the water is coming, you have to stop somewhere. No, you have to move with the tide. And the reason why you're moving with the tide is because if you do not move, the world is changing very fast. What was relevant yesterday is no longer relevant today. So for an individual that wants to consistently be relevant, you must include digital literacy to your learnings, right? And I would say it has to be something that is consistent. Either you'd maybe outsource your learning from somewhere or stay in community of people that you know that these people, this is what they do, and then you just intentionally put yourself in that system, right? But the idea of saying, oh, you have learned at some point and then you want to just stop, it would make the person stall, right? The person would no longer be relevant especially even in this time that we're in, right? In this time of digital literacy. So yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Madam Bridget. Okay, because of time, I'm just going to ask our next panelist, pardon me for pronouncing the name wrongly. If you call Nazero, are you in the meeting?
Yes,
are you
please.
Present?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. So I'm just going to ask you the next question. So my next question is, how can artificial intelligence be integrated into learning environments in ways that enhance human potential rather than placing the impossible elements of human connection and mentorship in education?
All right. Thank you so much for the good question. Actually, well, I'm first Ezeamii. I'm a founder of Nervat, which is an edtech and HR startup here in Rwanda. So for this question, I would first say the artificial intelligence could be integrated in a way that every learner or talent could find a way first to demonstrate themselves. Like it should have a space that every talent or a learner could still show their potential, not just kill the curiosity. For the case of Nervet, what we are breeding, we have built an e-learning platform, but also have built the other platform, which is called Engage Camp. What does Engage Camp do is that it helps talents to demonstrate themselves through challenges and hackathons. So by this case, we have been using artificial intelligence the way that it provides the challenges to the talents, but also gives the room for them to demonstrate what they can do on themselves. So this way, the talents are able now to make sure that even though there are those tools, but they also put that human touch or human part. So due to other panelists and the speakers have said, we should not look at artificial intelligence as the way to change everything or to make everything to the on behalf of the teachers or talents or whatever, but as something that speeds up the work, that speeds up the way we teach, the way we learn, or also like how are we integrating that kind of artificial intelligence in our everyday learning and teaching. So I was sharing the case of Nervet, like the way talents are showing their part through the challenges in hackathons. But of course, there are many other ways that we can also find like to integrate artificial intelligence so that they remain a huge part for the learners, or the teachers, or the talents in that case. Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, we are done with our all right.
Sorry, just to confirm, are we done with the panel session?
Okay. Sorry, my network was breaking at yes session, and I'm just going to invite. Any questions from the he had a question.
All right. Thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you, moderators. It has been an awesome session today with all the panelists and their bright ideas about the integration of AI into education. And now we are about to go into the question and answers. Is there anyone with a question from Hideout Dreams? Please, if you have a question, you can just raise your hand. All right, for the meantime, I don't know if any of the any of the panelists from room 1 would want to share a light here in the main room, just as we wait for questions to come in. I think Mr. Hakim was saying something on the breakout room 1 before the session ended.
The chat box, Mr. Sesan.
Can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. So there've been a mix-ups lately, but thank God that everything works together. So I was trying to collaborate with what Adenike was saying concerning education and concerning education. But I was trying to come up on the fact that the AI has come to stay. Just as Olufumi was saying, that it now depends on us as individual to train our mind, to train ourselves. Because accessibility is one of the key factor here. We are still in developing country. I'm from Nigeria, despite I'm here. And most times when I travel back to Nigeria, I'm always like, whew, I don't have access to internet. Even some of the things that I want to do, I don't have access to it. And that thing struck my mind. We always blame the government for it. The government is there, but what are we going to do individually? And I tap from what Olufemi said, collaboration. It goes a long way. It actually opens door to a lot of things that the governments are unable to fulfill. But individually, we need to train our mind in terms of ethics when you're using the AI, in terms of decision making. Everything has to be ethical. So what I just want to say is that we need to be more collaborative. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hakim. Yes, Abu Baida, sorry if I pronounced the name wrongly. Utuman, please go on with your question.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much. Call me Abu Baida Uthman from Uganda. I am the founder of IFBA. Also CJ, that is called Jana Baida Academy. To works with the digital that is looking at empowering young people with the slogan saying that digital is the future. I want to thank so much all the panelists, especially also Akim, for that very great elaborative information about AI. I've really enjoyed his lecture, and I believe indeed AI has come to stay. Many African youths have adapted to use AI, and many of them see potential opportunity while using AI. But now the challenge comes, what potential ecosystem partnership can be critically used in this area, because there is lack of funding, there's a lack of mentorship, there's a lack of access to resources. But you find many of African youth really wants to make the opportunity in this AI. And secondly, how can the government, the private sector, and the innovation hubs come together so that we see the mentorship and the different guidance for the African youth is taken into consideration. Otherwise, I really appreciate this topic. Indeed, AI has come to stay, but those are the gaps. How do we fix them? Thank you so much.
All right, any of the panelists can go on to answer the question. I want to be sure we got the question.
I think he's
Mr.
talking about
Julie.
bridging. Yeah, he's talking about bridging the gap, right? For AI across different parts of Africa, and how could we have investment and maybe support from different quarters into AI. Okay, I'm Ashedu Jude, founder of EduJetH EdTech Systems and also Infinite Classroom. I have a web app and I'm into educational technology and school advocacy. That's, I would like to take a real dive into it, that question, because sometimes I use myself as an example. I'm currently bootstrapping my entire process because I still work full-time and all that. So it depends on what area of AI we are trying to advance or what aspect of AI we're trying to implement in schools or in education. So now, I've been testing and found out that you can also have an offline version of AI, So these models can work online, like the Google Edge AI. It's an Android app. So you can just install it on your phone and have these chatbots talk to you without using the internet. So these are things that are already available. And with the process of having solar panel, so that will take care of the electricity part, and maybe the device parts will be handled by any of the big telecom companies if they want to support the community. But we need to have a framework. We need to have a framework. I also developed a curriculum called Digital Education Ecosystem, which heavily focuses on how teachers, schools, or even communities can implement any form of technology and the workflow. So that is very important in understanding. Technology is not a single entity. It has a workflow. So what are we looking at? Most parts of Africa do not have electricity. So what do we implement for that? Solar panels and all that. Then for the AI and devices, you find that without internet, some of these models can work offline, right? And it can be implemented in schools. And that will also help reduce the dependency on internet-based facilities for schools and for students. So for teachers and for communities that are trying to bridge the gap, you will have to look at what is already existing, right? Rather than thinking about new things, we need new this, we need new that. What is already existing and what can you do with AI at your level, rather than trying to implement something that is from a different country. Like one of the panelists said that every technology has a context, right? Technology implementing in America is different from African context. Technology you're implementing in Lagos State is different from a suburb in Lagos State, right? Technology implementing in one state in Nigeria is different from every other state. So you look at your context and look at what do you have. I believe in infrastructural development, but sometimes we might not have the funding to just implement all at once. So what do? You look at, where do I start from? What can I do at this level? I've trained teachers in Lagos State, maybe 400, 500 teachers, how to use their smartphone to create lesson plans, to create lesson content and all that, because they didn't have money for laptops, right? So imagine coming for the training and all you just do is train them on how to use the smartphone, because that's what is available, and it worked out for them, and they were able to actually start implementing technology in their classroom with just their smartphone that they were thinking is just for calling and all that. So you look at where are you and what can you implement at that level. So that will help build a reputation, and also help you build a traction on developing from where you are to getting better with use of technology. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just add something to that, if you don't mind? Very quickly, okay. Olufumi speaking. So I think one of the very important things that we've seen to have also overlooked, and that's to answer his question, is data. And this is such a major gap in African communities and African countries, right? There is that lack of data. And you see, to come up with solutions, you have to have data that backs it. If I ask maybe anyone on this call today, I don't know about other countries, I'm going to speak specifically to Africa. If you say you want to find the data of young people who are maybe have access to the internet or have access to maybe some AI, whatever, do we have the existing data? So that is first things first. Let's have data-driven programs. Because you see, when you say close a gap, the thing is, how did you measure the gap? What are the ways that how would you know the population of those that are affected by that gap? Until we have data, we will not be able to create solutions that are sustainable. That's why we keep doing these programs. Everybody's doing youth this, youth that, and yet we don't seem to be moving forward because we don't have data. And I think another thing I would add is we need to also encourage local innovation hubs. Again, what I talked about context. You see, it is someone who is living in a community that knows the problem of the community, that understands their problems, because these are lived experiences. So they are the ones that are in better position to come up with solutions to the problems that they face. So rather than coming from, the external party say, oh, we want to give you a solution, we can actually support local innovation hubs. And of course, I mean, without a doubt, funding is very important. So definitely funding needs to be expanded, and even mentorship. So those, I think there's a question about, wealthier countries. Those that are in advanced countries or that have access to funding and all that, they can mentor those who are certain communities that don't have such access. So I just thought to add that.
Thank you, ma'am. I think Mr. Holusheun now. Please, you have just a minute to speak.
A minute, okay. Thank you so much. Mr. Hakeem, you say you did not have internet when you came to Nigeria?
Yes.
Which area should that be, please?
On our local government.
That is serious, because as I'm in my office, I think I have about 3.
So when we talk about, that's one of the things there.
That's
you
just
talk
by
about
the way.
access. I know.
Access.
When you talk about access,
so,
talking about equality access.
Okay.
For instance,
you are taking up my time, Mr. Hakeem.
Okay, you have your time.
I guess we really have to do some definition here. There's a difference between access in digital technology and possession.
Yeah.
I think we know that. You can have access in some area of digital technology, like you have access to your mommy's phone, daddy's phone, brother's phone, but you might not have possession. That is, after a certain period, you don't have access to it again. Now we are talking about some of these things. We are looking away from one of dimension of it, affordability. Affordability of devices, of the digital technology. So economic factors actually play a lot of games when you are talking about teachers having this, teacher having that. The last person that spoke, I think Mr. Jujo, doctor, talks about teachers making use of their phones, having offline AI systems. But between you and I'm a developer, an AI person, architect. When you have an offline system, there is a limit to which the data that is on that system compared to when you are connected. I think you know that.
Yes, sir.
You agree with that? So these are some of the things we need to juxtapose in order to arrive at a concrete solution to some of these issues. Thank you, because of my time.
Thank you very much, sir. That was a very good contribution. I'll take Mrs. or Miss Bridget now. You have a minute too, please.
Thank you. So I just wanted to respond to this question on the chat box that says, if youths are the future, why aren't they given the opportunity to shape the present? So I'd just like to say that as a young person, if you have an idea to maybe create solutions, especially around what we're talking about, digital solutions, you need to start what you have to do first before anybody believes you, right? You have to you have to believe in your solution so much so that you can present it outside, and then people would then start to believe you. Really, nobody would give you a platform when they have not seen what you can do or what you're able to do. And also, I'd also mention can collaborate with other people that they already have their programs or their solutions running. You can bring up your solution to them just so that you would cause meaningful change in your community. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you to all of our panelists and